I'm a fat pig.
What did you just call me?
I'm starving.
I am so full.
I'm gonna vomit.
I can't fit.
I'm nauseous.
What are you going to order?
Can I get a side of mayo?
I'm sweating.
Do you hear my breathing?
I cannot stop eating chips.
This is not an extra large.
Do I look fat?
Welcome to Fat Pig. I'm Frank Liotti.
And I'm Jessica Curson.
You said your real name today.
I know. I think because of our guest, I feel safe.
We are sliding down the oil slick because we have such a good guest today. We're really excited.
I am so excited because I love this person. I really want to love people, but I'm filled with hatred.
How can you not love him? You're our first guest in like a century.
Yeah. I love, our guest today is Ted Alexandro.
Oh, thank you guys. Thank you. Thanks for the love.
Yeah. He's a very famous dancer in the Connecticut area.
I loved you in the Martha Graham tour.
Thank you so much.
In that purple outfit, leotard.
Not a lot of people saw that, but I appreciate it.
It was stunning. I've seen it all. All of it.
Ted is a brilliant comedian. Like, brilliant. Smart. Just likable, everything. And I just really appreciate you being here.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I told you guys before we came on, I'm a genuine fan of the podcast. My fiance and I listen to it regularly.
One of the piglets, our fan base.
Piglets, yes. We consider ourselves piglets.
We consider ourselves piglets. So you know what this is all about, that we're crazy.
For sure.
Yeah. And our energy is very different than yours.
Which is great.
Yeah, I mean, it's different, but I think it goes well together.
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, you balance us out. I feel like we're going to feel okay when we leave.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, even though your energy is mellow, you still have a little bit of a lunatic look in your eye, which is the comedian.
Somewhat sinister.
Somewhat sinister, which is great. Well, that could also be being from Queens.
Yes.
So you're from Queens, right?
Yeah, I grew up in a neighborhood called Belrose, which is kind of the
Belrose, Queens,
easternmost part of Queens. Yeah, right before Long Island starts. So
were you the only white kid in high school in your class?
Not in high school, but in junior high school.
In junior high,
I was among the only white kids in junior high. Yeah, I went to junior high school 109, which was in Queens Village, Hollis.
Hollis, that's right. Who raps about Hollis?
Run DMC's.
Right.
Yeah, I actually ran into them at the. There's a record store in a little shopping center, and I was in high school, and I was buying my father a birthday present, and I had just bought Barry Manilow's Greatest Hits.
Oh my God! I cannot believe
Didn't
you're
he
not
just
gay.
die?
Oh, for him.
For my father. Yeah. No, he just came out.
Right?
Oh my God! Same thing.
Same thing. Yeah. You said that before I could inhale to say it.
Perfect. So I'm walking out of this record store with Barry Manilow's Greatest Hits, and I see Run DMC pull up in a black Cadillac with Run DMC plates.
How many are there in Run DMC?
There were 3.
11.
The DJ was Jam Master Jay, so it was 3 of them. But it was just Run and DMC this particular day. And they get out of the car, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm a teenager, and I love them. So I'm like, I love you guys, I love your music. They're like, oh, thanks, man, thanks. They're like, what'd you buy? I'm like, I got a gift for my father. It was his birthday. Oh, what'd you get? Barry Manilow. All right.
They probably love him.
They probably do.
Yeah,
they probably do.
They probably play Barry Manilow,
They wanted to sample
Yanni,
it.
Kenny
true.
G.
It's true.
They wanted Copacabana instead of Walk This Way, but it wasn't available.
That's true. I felt humiliated, but they, like you said, they probably were fans of his.
Yeah, they probably were.
Yeah.
So what got you into comedy?
Well, I had done a lot of acting and stuff in high school, college, community theater. I was a piano player from the time I was like 6. I took piano lessons. So like at school, if it was a rainy day, they would bring me up to play like during lunchtime.
Sorry, it's so funny.
Those are like my first gigs, really.
I forgot you played piano for years and were a music teacher.
But I didn't know you were
right.
I didn't know you were the piano player in the cafeteria at 6.
Yes, like pretty much from like my
Any requests?
It's like Tavern on the
great
Green.
crowd. Great.
Yeah, what do you want to hear? Sesame Street? Okay.
My 2 big numbers at the time
Numbers.
were the theme from Rocky. And
I love that one.
And the Peanuts. The
Oh, yeah.
those are my big closers. Yeah. So yeah, I was performing. I mean, it was music, but I was performing in front of hundreds of kids throughout elementary school, and then got into like theater. Just community theater stuff, Grease, West Side Story, all this type of stuff. And then in college, started doing sketch comedy. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of the entree where my brain started going towards, doing stand-up.
Did this whole business of stand-up, which has killed me emotionally and made me a completely different person, has it done that to you? Like, you seem like you deal with it really well emotionally.
Well, thanks. I mean, there's times where it can be draining, frustrating, infuriating, all of those things. You feel, like you're stagnating or things like that. But for the most part, I think, I don't know, like I try to just control the things I can control, keep coming up with new stuff, challenge myself to do things that interest me, and don't get stuck in a rut where I'm doing the same things the same way in the same places, because that's usually when I'll start to lose my mind. So.
Right. Yeah.
Do you write every day?
Just about, and it tends to be almost like taking the form of journaling, but going to the way if there's something comedic that sparks or something that I'm like passionate about that I think could be funny, I'll try to just get that out and not really edit too much. Just get it out, and then I'll look back and say like, oh, that's got potential.
I love that. So you
That's
keep it organic.
interesting.
Yeah, it makes total
I love
sense.
that.
You would write anyway, and you're not thinking about it being funny. You're just writing.
That's right.
And
Not
seeing
too
what
much
comes
pressure.
out of you.
Yeah, not too much pressure to be funny, because that'll come later. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it comes out fully formed, and I'm
Right.
like, okay, that's the joke. But other times it's like, okay, there's something there. I just need to talk it through on stage, or kind of keep writing. Or
I tried that years ago, but it was seriously like, I hope that she dies soon because there's so much suffering, and what are we going to do? It was like so horrific.
Oh, depressing,
It was
you mean?
so horrific. I was like, maybe if I just write something funny, it'll come out again.
Well, Ted is incredibly positive.
Are you?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm pragmatic, but I am positive for the most part.
Always? Have you always been like that?
I think so.
Because that doesn't seem like a very common trait for a comedian to have. I think that's why so many people love you too. It's kind of it's a breath of fresh air compared to so many others that you have that positive attitude.
Thanks.
And it's enjoyable to be around that energy. And
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think, I grew up in a family where my mom was bipolar and hospitalized when I was a kid.
Right.
And my older brother's bipolar and was hospitalized multiple times. So I grew up around that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But they're both like doing well now, and really kind of what I kind of cherish about my family is that I'm one of 5, 3 boys, 2 girls. So we've had these situations and these things to deal with, but we've done it as a family, I think, as healthy as possible, given those conditions. I mean, when my mom was hospitalized, it was postpartum when my sister was born, so I was maybe 7 or 8.
Wow.
And I just remember she was away for a couple of months.
wow.
That's heavy.
Yeah. But, then she, like, pretty much from the time I was, I don't know, a teenager on, she really made it a point to take her mental and physical health very seriously. For her, that included meds, diet, exercise, therapy. Her faith is very important to her, religion. For my brother, and I think having my mother as a role model helped him a lot, going through what he went through, because he had multiple hospitalizations. But now he's doing very well, and he's actually a peer-to-peer counselor at the hospital that he was hospitalized at.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and the last several years he's had relationships, held down jobs. He's a poet. He writes and performs regularly around the city. So yeah, they're both inspirations to me in that regard. So I think I do have optimism and hope, but it's born of like doing work. And we even went to therapy as a family, like maybe 10 years
That's
ago.
an amazing
we
family
did
to come
too.
from. Wow.
Yeah.
We did too. We went to family therapy, and it was
that right?
It did nothing. But yeah, we did go. It didn't. I mean, but yes, it's important. That's great.
My sister, my youngest sister, Amy, had read that it was helpful for people with bipolar and depression. And I have other siblings that have had depression as well. So she said, why don't we, try this? So we went, I guess it was maybe, I don't know, 5 to 7 sessions. Which was, saying something for 7 adults to get together.
Yeah.
My brother Dave lives in Connecticut.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it was really beneficial, to because it's not your parents sitting there; it's 2 adults, and it's your siblings, but you're all adults now. So it was just interesting to hear the different things people said and the different perspectives. The way that I remember things are different from the way my siblings or my parents. So all those dynamics were interesting, and it was. I remember going to do sets certain nights after therapy. I was so exhausted because it was really
it's
That
exhausting.
is hard.
really gutted me. But yeah, I think that's just an example of. I think I'm lucky to come from a family that, not in a kind of Pollyanna way, but in
Well, it's choices. They made the right choice.
Right.
Like obviously, like we both compare our own families to this, hearing it, and my oldest sister who passed away never made the right choice. She never did the work. So she marinated before she got sick for years and years and years in resentments, in comparisons, in jealousies, in crippling depression. She should have gotten help years ago, and we didn't come from a background that supported that. I don't think my parents even knew what therapy was.
Sure.
They were, working nights and putting food on the table people. But it's amazing to me that your family took the action to make sure that everybody was okay, and your mom during your teenage years and whatnot. That's incredible. That's all inspiring to me.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it's pretty rare, and I definitely recognize that I'm lucky and we're lucky because, quite honestly, they could have been dead or
could tear a family apart.
Any number of things. Yeah, sure.
Does addiction run in your family at all?
My brother Rich, I know, like when he went for one of his hospitalizations, he did like 12-step.
I know
program.
Rich. I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He
Love
did
him.
Yeah. I love Rich. He's another inspiration.
Great guy.
Just the way that he navigates life, given the things that he's been through, and the way that he gives back now to people, and he runs like open mics and stuff like this. So Rich went through a 12-step thing. I don't think he identifies as an addict, but a lot of times with bipolar, there's overlapping behaviors.
Of course, you self-medicate.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think he found that helpful to do different, like Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous.
What would you say your vices are? I mean, do you have any vices? Like things that you turn to when you're depressed, angry, sad, like to escape?
I would say food is probably my go-to. I don't have anything that I would say is like, like a dark secret or anything like that. But I know that
So lucky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you abuse it though? Do you abuse? I know.
I
mean, it is. It's luck of the draw, I do think.
Yeah. No, for
Not
sure.
having
I think
it.
so much of this
Do you
stuff.
abuse it though? Do you ever abuse food? You so don't strike me as that.
No, I mean I go through phases where I know I'm not treating myself well. I'm not being healthy.
What would you eat to not treat yourself well? Like a pan of
pita.
ziti?
Fast food.
A peanut, he just
pita.
said.
I said a pita.
Oh, a pita.
A pita with
I
some
thought you said a
cucumbers.
peanut.
No, a peanut.
with white sauce. Yeah.
Shaved carrots.
cucumber, a
And
shaved
I
head.
go all out.
A shaved head. Wait a minute.
Yeah. No, like the usual, like fast food, pizza.
I love
donuts.
fast food. What's your favorite fast food? Taco Bell.
I mean, it's been a long time since I've really indulged in that stuff. But yeah, Taco Bell was a
Like
late
what
90s.
year was that?
This
like,
was the late 90s. No.
like were there CDs or vinyl yet when you had Taco Bell?
8-tracks.
Cassette, yes.
A Victrola. The old Victrola.
Yeah, no, I think maybe it's coming from the family that I came from. I was hyper aware of the need for balance, for myself. And I had this thing of self-correcting if I felt myself, whether it was drinking, eating, whatever it was, on the road, like maybe early on in my stand-up years, I would drink a lot. But I kind of caught that early on as like, what am I doing? You know, this isn't me really, and it really it just slows me down, and you know, I don't like it. So
balance is the key.
Are you a Libra? That's a very Libra thing.
I'm Aquarius.
liar.
Air sign.
No, you're not. You're a Virgo. Don't you dare lie to us.
How dare you?
How dare you? Wait. Oh, my God. I'll never forget a story you told me about an old person in the audience when you were performing. Do you know what I'm talking about? This is one of the funniest
I
things
think I know
I've ever...
this.
I told you.
I know this, yeah.
Remember?
Was this-
Someone looked up and said...
Say again.
You told me that someone was in the audience once, an old woman.
Mm-hmm.
I say she was Jewish, but whatever. We have to make her Jewish because she seemed nasty.
Right.
And you were performing and she looked, I love that he's just like, right. And she looked up and she said, "You're all over the place." Do you
I do remember
When was that?
I think she was Jewish, yeah. Either Jewish or Italian. One of the,
Yeah, she had to have
When
been
was
one.
that?
This had to be probably 8 years ago.
Yeah, you told me like
7
8 years ago.
I remember
Something
you said something to me about bombing. You were like, "Well, try when you have to bomb, and you have 45 minutes to get through it." I remember, years ago,
Yeah, and
something about bombing for 5 minutes versus like when you're headlining for 45 and bombing for that.
yes, once they don't like you, then it's a long
Oh
ride
my
through the-
God! Especially in a gay bar in Washington D.C., where they'd seriously rather.
Yeah.
What was the worst bomb you ever had, you think?
Well, you know, I remember this other story you reminded me of. There was another older woman who I was doing, it was post 9/11. I was doing some jokes about that. I forget even what they were, but I was just trying stuff out. And this, like, all of a sudden, one table starts yelling at me, "No!" Just like, "No."
No.
And then the other side of the room starts yelling at them, like, "Let him finish." And then,
Jesus.
and then this old woman stands up. She's like, "You were doing so well." That was her contribution.
Aren't these
You were
great
doing
stories?
so well. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I do a whole bit how they come up to me after and have comments, but it's always the older Jews, you know.
Yes.
I don't understand why you talked about that. You know, people would have laughed, but you made a horrible decision. Like, they're just so, they feel like they can say anything to you.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, it's always the older people.
Yeah, you know, I think like I often think I started on like the Long Island clubs and the New York clubs. I would kind of go back and forth. And Long Island audiences have this thing where they're utterly unimpressed by show business. It's like you're in their living room. Like,
It sounds like gay men to me.
Yeah,
no
there's
matter
no-
what, I could be doing backflips and like shooting flares out of my asshole.
yes.
Seriously, and they would be unimpressed with their arms crossed.
That's right. That's
Lately,
right.
I've just been saying to them, "Don't worry, there'll be a female comic coming on soon. You'll be okay."
Yes.
I just said it at a gay pride show and it got a laugh from the women. It's true. They're just completely like that.
Yeah, and I think it's a good thing actually, because it does, you know, most places you do have a semblance of like, this is show business, I'm the performer. But when you go there, it's just like, you know, what do you got? We're just really just out for a night of wings. You're talking, we're listening.
Impress me.
Yeah.
I'm not impressed.
Yeah.
I know. They all have that entitled... Yeah, I know comedy.
Yeah.
I've seen it all.
Yeah, and I think it's
Laugh.
good. I do now. I think it's good.
It is good,
You know,
because you have to learn how to deal with it and still be kind and loving.
That's right. That's
and
right.
not be so defensive.
Do you
right?
ever get defensive on stage?
Not as much anymore. I like
You
yeah,
used to?
Yeah. I used to like get angry and very frustrated and kind of turn on an audience.
Mm-hmm.
But I've gotten better. I think I just get quieter and slower now. You know,
Yeah.
Right.
Which I'm already pretty quiet and slow. But yeah, like I kind of just
I was just going to say, "Are you in room 3, classroom 2?" I got better since I started taking care of myself and drinking smoothies in the morning.
that'll do it.
I have blueberry and raspberry smoothies every day with no Greek yogurt anymore because my bowels would explode. But I've changed. It's made me less angry.
Smooth, yeah.
Do you
yeah.
drink smoothies?
Oh my gosh, you know, since I started living with my now fiance, it's this transformation that I did not see coming. Like that, I'm a smoothie guy.
Really?
Like smoothies,
Like with greens in it, or
greens,
Oh, God.
you name. Like it's you know, like because I put it this way, like when you're single. A smoothie's just like a fun word that you remember from time to time. You pass by a store and it's illuminated smoothie. Oh yeah, maybe I'll have one of those. You know,
Yeah.
Eventually, not today. But like when you're in a couple, it's such an integral part of the relation. You wake up,
Yes,
we talk
it is.
about it. You know, what do we have? What's the base? What are we going to start with? You know, do we have berries? Are they in season? Do we have avocado? Is it in that 5-minute window where it's still good? Do we have the milk of some sort of nut? You know, like
The milk of some sort of nut.
so. Yeah, just the smoothie. The smoothie is really what you always have something to talk about. You know,
Yeah.
the next smoothie.
Yeah, it does keep a relationship
It's
going.
so true. When I think about it, it's. I went to the grocery store today and I got those berries that you need, acai, and that seed that probably does nothing.
Yes.
Whatever it is that
Do you
they
put
say.
that shit in it?
This
Like
chia stuff.
No, like
Yeah,
little
we talked
powders and
about that
stuff.
this weekend. Yeah,
I do.
Is it all
Dude.
bullshit? Acai and chia,
I don't know. I assume everything's bullshit.
a lie.
but yeah,
it's all
yeah.
a lie.
I put a pencil in, and I'm feeling
Honest
pretty
to God,
good.
I put my dog's ashes in that
shame.
died in August. 2 tablespoons a day.
You know what we do put in? The cacao nibs.
Oh, I do that too.
You know,
That's
Yeah.
I like the texture. Of
The
it. I don't know if
chocolate?
it's, yeah, basically.
What'd you call me?
Cacao nibs.
Yeah. They're it's like a dark, like a pure. I think it's considered a superfood, but like all those things.
It is
At Whole Foods.
and it's sure as hell not super.
And it's the price
I
of
mean,
a Toyota Corolla at Whole Foods for $0.25 pound.
And you put flax seeds in to make yourself more regular.
No, we don't really do that.
You don't need to. You have no resentments.
Are you regular?
I'm pretty regular. Yeah. Yeah. Coffee
You're so
helps.
lucky.
Yeah, but yeah, we're both.
If you're healthy emotionally, you're regular.
That's not true.
I think so.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
You think it's
I
related?
do. I think I hold on to it a lot. That's what it is. I'm not heavy. I'm not heavy at all.
I
I'm just holding on
constantly let
to
it
months.
go.
I'm holding on to months of bowels inside of me.
My life in New York City is by what bathroom I can use.
Yeah, but
Curtains
that
and
might be
home.
another. You're extreme the other way. I'm talking about having like a normal, healthy thing every day.
I
feel like
I have
people are-
hundreds of them a day.
But then they're normal and healthy.
No, they're not.
That's what
normal.
I'm saying.
They're screaming when they come out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's a pretty balanced,
It's like
healthy,
when you feed the dog and you have to open
normal
the back door
person.
immediately.
So he's like basically you are just have a regular healthy thing going on.
Yeah, to the point that I don't notice. I think
Oh my God!
pretty much early in the day, nice one after the coffee.
So it's just
Oh my! You're
it's
like
just,
a normal person.
I guess. I mean,
So
I don't,
you know it's from what you had for dinner last night at the Brazilian restaurant. If something goes wrong, you're like, oh, this must be those snap peas.
Pretty much.
Like, you know.
Mine's
I can
not.
identify.
Today it was
Yeah.
from my bat mitzvah.
See, that's because you're the opposite
They're
of
both
me.
dying laughing.
Right.
It's backlogged. My bat mitzvah.
It's from when I was 13.
That is. So
Alex
good.
is dying laughing because he's a Jew too. Anything I say that's Jewish, look at him. He can't
Don't you? Do you guys have probably had this conversation?
about shit
Well,
every
yeah.
episode.
No,
8
about
hours in a car. It's
Jewish people and Italian people
Constantly.
in New York being essentially the same.
She always
like-
says it's the same, but Jews have more money.
Yeah,
Jessica always
that's
says.
what I always say.
Yeah, because my dad's side of the family is Italian, so those grandparents, there was a very Jewish energy because they would come to like Delancey Street,
Right.
and do all the all that.
Do you have any idea what your last name was before Ellis Island? Is that it?
I
or-
think it was Alessandro with 2 S's, and they
Okay,
just made it. an
that sounds
X.
more Italian. Right.
Yeah.
So wait, so they were Italian and you felt did they talk about what were we going to say? They talk about shitting a lot?
No, just the energy. Because when you mentioned your bat mitzvah, it
Mm-hmm.
just reminded me of like my grandmother had a lot of Jewish friends, and they grew up in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
and I guess at that time, especially, the neighborhoods were pretty much like on top of each other, intermingled, and the cultures
Right.
were intermingled. So there was
That's true.
like the complaining and the just a similar type.
Passion and
The passion.
like kind of explosive,
Yes,
emotional
Diarrhea.
and also pent up, right?
Right.
A lot of that.
Yeah,
my
either
dad's
pent up
parents.
or crazy
or
emotional.
or on display.
Yeah.
as well. Yeah,
Right.
What was
Yeah,
your
this-
name in Ellis Island?
I don't know. Because
Mine was Curse Baum.
That I knew.
That's how
Kirsten
my
Baum I
family
knew.
got here to
Mine
drop
was
the Baum because
all one word.
Yeah,
not
it was
like-
Kirsten Baum.
Yeah.
Mine was probably the same, Vigliotti, because it's kind of there's nothing about that that's not Italian. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But you see variations of it, like with an A on the end or an O on the end. So who knows what the
yeah,
hateful
mine
white
was
people did at Ellis
right.
Island.
Mine was Kirsten. You better change that name, Jew.
Right.
Yeah, it was. I would have had so much great art. So, let that sink in for a second. So, okay, so you basically are pretty healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, balance, I think from the time I was a teenager, because when I was in high school, my brother Rich was hospitalized for the first time. So in a lot of ways, it was almost like the roles were reversed, where I was the older brother, even though he's a year and a half older than I am. So, I think part of it is maybe just genetics and, biologically, like your makeup. The other part of it is just your family and the role that you assume.
Absolutely. I see that from my best friend who had schizoaffective disorder.
Yeah.
Part of it was her illness, and boy, oh boy, the other part was her family and the way she was brought up. She didn't make it. And she could have, but I could not agree with you more.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, I fell into that role of the caretaker, the responsible one, the balanced one. Mm-hmm. And I was also, like I said earlier, mindful of maybe it was a fear too, because, seeing my brother, like if I felt myself swinging into unhealthy patterns, that I was kind of vigilant about not letting it go too far.
Can you talk for a second in a very general way about bipolar disorder and what that would mean to somebody in a family where a family member is suffering from? Like, what are some of the happenings?
Yeah. Well, it's the two poles being mania and depression.
Right.
So the mania is characterized by feelings of invincibility, creative bursts, a lot of times religious ideations where you think you're God or Jesus or whatever, you think you're kind of a superhero. So it was fascinating in a certain sense to observe my brother when he was manic, or what they call hypomanic. I think hypomanic is the one that they consider almost not good, but that there's benefits to it. When you're hypomanic, you're in that creative...
Like Robin Williams.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did he have bipolar?
Yeah.
He did?
Major.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. He wouldn't take his medicine on purpose.
I didn't know that. I knew that all I knew
right?
is that he suffered with struggled with depression. I didn't know he had bipolar disorder.
No, he had horrible...
I mean, that makes total sense when I think about his persona.
Yeah.
In general, okay.
Yeah, so, and another interesting thing that I found out later is that sometimes other members of the family, like if there is a member of your family who's bipolar, other members will have certain elements of it. And I can see that in myself, that there are times when I do have like the hypomanic, like and I don't know if it's just creative bursts or whatever, but it made sense to me when I read that, like, oh, maybe I have elements of it, but it doesn't fall into the highs and lows of bipolar. And then, of course, the other pole being crippling depression, where for my brother, when I saw that up close, because we lived together into our 20s, I would see where he would like go without sleep for days.
That's
when he
very
was manic.
common, right?
And write a lot of poetry, or do start to dress almost like in these like bizarre costumes, like no boundaries, no limits. I can do anything, I can be anything. And then the depression would set in, because you can't keep living like that, and then crash or have paranoia. Think people are out to get you, or
sounds like there are overlaps with other mental illnesses.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
The paranoia and the
there's
people
also
are to get you. And
so many different kinds of bipolar.
I'm sure. That makes total sense.
Which can be very confusing.
Different to each individual and whatnot, right?
Yeah, and that's part of the problem too, with I think in terms of finding proper medication. Because that's an ongoing thing too, finding the right dose, the right medication.
Sure, because it changes as your body changes, it wears off, or it doesn't work anymore and whatnot.
Yeah.
Do you think that this had some form of impact? Well, the performing makes sense to me because that was me as well. And I'm sure that even though I've never really articulated it, I lived a great deal in my imagination. Like there were no other kids around, etc. And I was constantly somebody else or making voices. As far as comedy is concerned, how do you think how did you veer off from being a performer and a musician to primarily a stand-up comic? Why do you think that? Because it's such a specific thing. Something makes us a comic, I think.
Yeah, I think like there is the natural inclination towards it. I always liked performing, even if it was a school play or if we had. I remember in like 4th grade, 5th grade, we had to use our spelling words for the week and create a story, and I liked. And then you got to read it in front of the class, and I liked doing funny stories. So I just liked being funny and silly in class or whatever it was.
And you are a storyteller.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. So I think, being from a big family, and I don't want to paint this picture of like it was like this morose mental institution. We were a big loving family.
I don't get that at all. I actually think it sounds really healthy.
The opposite. I do too. It sounds incredible.
Yeah. So we were all in the arts. Our parents were very supportive of the arts. So I feel lucky for that I think a generation before, like my dad, for instance, with his Italian parents, that would have been frowned upon. Very much so. But in fact, I remember when I got Conan, his mother, who has since passed, her reaction was, "Are you going to tell him that you have your teaching degree?" So that was the mentality for me.
Wow, it's sweet, but it's insane.
But it's telling,
sweet.
right? Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's very telling.
Yeah,
and you're a huge. I want to say this because it's important and it's rare and it's so. It says a lot about who you are and why I think you're so great. But you're a huge activist. Huge.
Yeah, I've been involved in a bunch of stuff.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And very vocal about it.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious where you think that came from. Is your family like that? Are your parents like that? Like truth tellers and
fighting for the underdog seems to be a great part of your activism.
Yeah. I would say for sure my mom and dad, again, like I was raised Catholic with them, but I feel lucky in that my parents were religious, but in kind of the best sense of all of the things you're talking about, like advocating for the less fortunate, or it was never like a status thing. It was really about living that, do unto others type thing.
God, what happened to people?
They still exist, but there are some people that shout louder, I think.
Yeah.
Depending on the day. Time.
Yeah. So when this will illustrate it a little bit, like my earliest childhood memories are we lived in India when I was 4 or 5 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. My mom and dad had an opportunity to teach over there. They were teaching in this like Catholic school program, and they had an opportunity to bring it over to India, and it was communication workshops for married couples. So they had an opportunity to kind of start the program there. So those are my earliest childhood memories. They're kind of unorthodox, outside the box thinkers, very much persons. And so I think I got a lot of that from them. And as far as activism, they're always very big on social justice. My dad taught in Bushwick for 30 years. My mom taught in Brooklyn. So, just kind of living, practicing what you preach, kind of.
And they were certainly exposed to so many different cultures and levels of finance, financial backgrounds.
Yes.
That so many people were. I'm from Long Island.
Yeah.
And, there were all of the signs on the lawn of the Trump signs and whatnot when I would go home. I still think of it as home, even though I haven't been there in over 20 years. But they're not exposed to anybody else. They've never seen anybody in Bushwick in the 70s or 80s.
It's a great.
There's a whole world of people out there.
It's a great point.
Right.
I think one of the biggest gifts that I got from my parents is not putting too much emphasis on status. My dad taught the poorest of the poor in Bushwick during the week, and he'd bring 5 kids home on Friday usually, like a kind of a reward, like for good grades.
Wow.
So then we would play with them, like we'd play wiffle ball or whatever. They'd come to our house, and then we'd drive them back to Bushwick at the end of the night. And then on weekends, because we have 5 kids, and on a teacher's salary, he supplemented it by caddying at this exclusive golf course on Long Island on Saturdays and Sundays. So I always thought that was like such a good embodiment of my dad.
Amazing.
Teaching like really poor, mostly I guess Puerto Rican kids in the 70s, 80s in Bushwick. And then on weekends, literally rubbing elbows with, he's caddied for Donald Trump, who he said cheated and kicked the ball.
That's shocking.
Wow.
Right?
I can't. Are you shocked? I'm pulverized by that development.
I have a question for you. How do you not get furious at what's going on?
Oh, I do.
So, but how do you deal with that anger? Like, you're dealing with it in a very healthy way.
Well, I talk about it on stage,
Right.
like we were saying before, like the journaling, writing, and the journal can be, all over the place. The journal can be like anger and fury and rage and all those things. There might be elements of that I take to the stage, but if it gets too angry or too preachy or whatever, that's not going to work in a comedy club. So for me, it's a matter of kind of picking and choosing what is going to work on the stage. But yeah, I definitely have all of that, and that speaks to the activism too. Like that's why I got involved in Occupy Wall Street, Black Lives Matter, Fight for 15, all these things. Because like once I got involved in Occupy Wall Street, kind of by accident, just by going down there, I met all these really interesting people. It kind of opened up my circle of friends, to these folks who were longtime activists, academics, artists of various ilks, or just working class labor people. So I was so compelled by all of these people I was meeting that it was a natural fit. And then the way that activism kind of works is once you're in a group, you hear about other things, and you kind of have this network of, so that when, like for instance, when the Muslim ban happened and things started happening at the airports, like I knew about that immediately and went to JFK. So yeah, it's just about that fighting injustice and trying to be part of something bigger than yourself. Just participating. Has
any of it changed since the election? Have you mellowed or gotten more angry or changed the way you do things? Like how do you feel since the election, Jessica?
I'm not being funny. It's going to sound like I am. Yeah. I'm not okay from it.
Right.
And I talked about it in therapy yesterday.
Right.
Like it's really become a problem, and I have to not watch the news a lot. It's hard for us because we're performers, so I have to be on social media a lot. And I just, I go crazy. I read all these tweets and go to Donald Trump's thing 10 times a day. I have to stop.
And
I'm torturing myself. I'm definitely torturing myself.
I've become more apathetic. I've shut down in the last 2 months. After marinating in rage and despair, I've become separate from it. My head in the sand like an ostrich.
Yeah.
Disconnecting from it.
Right.
Because I have to handle my own life right now and I'll lose my mind. Yeah. So I've become disconnected from it. And I wonder the effect that it's had on you.
Well, I think, again, like that word balance, and I think activism is this as well. It's kind of gauging the degree of engagement versus detachment that you're talking about. Like there are times that dictate that I'm very engaged and involved and present, and there's times that, whether it's just my schedule or because it is all consuming or it's unhealthy, that I detach a little bit.
Yeah.
But for me, the way I look at this, it is infuriating and it is problematic. But I also look at the fact that I was involved in Occupy Wall Street and Black Lives Matter during Obama's presidency. So these were huge movements that were taking place before we ever heard of Trump even running.
Right.
So, there is a measure of there's a continuum of movements and struggle, and he certainly exacerbates all that and heightens all of it, because I think he embodies the worst of the worst of a lot of those, those of us who value inclusivity and equality and all these types of things. He's kind of the opposite of all that. So, it puts a villainous face on things that I think were already present to a large extent.
Right.
Yeah, that's very true.
Where do you get your news from that you trust?
Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman and Juan Gonzalez is great online. They're just, because it's hardcore news, but it's activism too. They walk the walk. Democracy Now!
Democracy Now!
Yeah. .org.
I'm going to check that out.
Yeah.
Where can people find you and see where you are and stuff?
They can look me up on Twitter at Ted Alexandro, tedalexandro.com. I have a new album that I'm shooting July 3rd at the Village Underground. I don't know if you...
Yeah, we have a lot of people from New York and New Jersey and Connecticut and stuff that listen to this. Seriously. Nice. So I want you to go see Ted because you'll flip out. He's so... I watched you the other night and I was like, I'm so jealous because you are such a great writer, and the way it's very different. You have a very different delivery than anyone else. You know, I'm used to seeing
Thanks.
a lot of straight white guys go up and do the same kind of thing. And you're a giver, not a taker on stage, and it's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I love it.
Nobody has ever put it that way. That's
Well,
that's
we
nice.
always talk about that.
That's our favorite thing. Yep.
It's a lot of people. It's all about ego and being liked and being approved of. And I think our job is to really give and make people laugh. And it's not about us.
I agree.
And it's hard. It's hard to be like that all the time on stage, but
Sure.
you are like helping people and giving, and you're also making people think, which is amazing. Like I feel like people leave and think differently after seeing you.
Well, thanks. You know, I mean, you evolve so much over the years. You know, I don't know
Yeah.
about you. I'm doing this 25
Yeah,
years
I'm
now.
19 years, so it's 25 years.
Wow.
My God.
So you evolve as a person, as a performer.
Yeah.
You know? You start to take risks. You do things that I couldn't have done, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So for me, that's part of the fun. And also, like you say, realizing, and I'm more and more mindful of like, it's really a collective, collaborative art, right?
It is.
Because so much is dependent on the audience. So yeah, if you have too much ego, to me, it detracts,
Right. Yeah.
So again, that's a Comedy Cellar at the Village Underground, and what's the date?
July 3rd, I'm doing 2 shows, taping my third special, Senior Class of Earth.
That's awesome.
You guys have to see it. I've
Go and
seen the
see Ted.
material. It's really great. It really is. And you better laugh, and you better do well. Because I'm joking. Can you imagine?
Don't embarrass
Don't
us.
embarrass us.
That's why I'm doing
embarrass
2
us.
shows. One of them
No,
will be-
you're going to be great. And follow us at Hey Fat Pig.
Hey Fat Pig at what's the thing with-
Gmail.com.
And what's the pictures? Instagram. Hey Fat Pig at
Pictures.
Instagram.
What's the picture?
The one with the
Hey Fat Pig at Twitter.
Hey Fat Pig at Twitter. Hey Fat Pig.
Go to
at-
iTunes.
Go to iTunes and subscribe and share.
Yes.
And don't forget about Showbiz Studios, SHOWBRIZ, on YouTube, where you can hear current and future episodes of Fat Pig, as well as a lot of other great podcasts.
Yeah.
That's our dear producer, Alex. Ted, thank you so much. We loved having you here.
I love you guys
You've
so
made
much.
us
Really,
calm,
really
and we
fun.
were clean. Oh my God, this is the first time we've ever not
I'm
talked
not even going
about.
to say it.
I can't say it either.
I'm not going to
The
say
old
it.
ladies are gonna say that was you didn't
Yeah.
go into the gutter. You didn't
Yeah,
take it.
we're gonna have a lot of very religious people
Yeah.
now that listen to us until the next episode,
Yeah.
and then they're gonna sue us.
Yep.
All right. Well, you listen to one.
They're going to run us out of town.
Have a great week. We love you guys.
Thank you, guys, and thank you, Ted.
Bye.